Hey y'all, how y'all doing? I'm setting up my YouTube camera as well, so if I'm kind of looking back and forth, it's going to be just because I'm talking to both of you all. But so how's everybody doing on this quarantine time? Um, I've been doing pretty good. I'm getting a little bored, I must admit. But I've been doing some work. I've been doing a lot more work than I normally have been doing with my clients, which I really enjoy. Hey, Elaine. Hey, Pam. Hey, Harold. Um, and I did a session to a couple of sessions today, and we were working on um, manifesting the life that you want. And um, a lot of people talk about manifesting the life that they want. You hear that a lot, but it's really nothing new. Um, it's actually very ancient. And as you all know, I'm very expansive and open on a spiritual level, always have been. And a lot of my clients they kind of come from different backgrounds. I'm not going to say religious backgrounds because I have a mix of people that come and have been doing it for a while. But I'm getting more people who are trying to expand, and they've been wanting more. And I've noticed that as we get older, um, we tend to leave behind the world of make believe that we have as children. You know, I remember when I was young and I used to make believe, and we spend most of our time from age 0 to 7 in that alpha, theta, delta stage, where like from 0 to 2 we're just being, and from like 2 to 5 we're actually in that theta vibration where we are getting in touch with our inner world. And from like 5 to 8 we make that critical thought connection to our inner world and our outer world. And it is those times that we draw these conclusions. And not only are we drawing those conclusions during those ages, but we are also going into that second, third grade where we're having to learn from a more structured way, and we're taught not to really use our imagination as much. And so we forget about the power of the imagination when we are leaving that second, third grade, because they start the end of grade testing, they start all of this stuff, and then we go straight from that hypnotic delta, theta, alpha stage into this 3D concrete reality. And then boom, we start having relationships, we start dealing with teachers, we start making friends, we start going to church, we start getting, filled with all of this, the concrete reality, and then that water, dreamy reality that we actually are pulled from as children, it gets submerged and we don't use it. So then when adults have a life that they're not very satisfied with, they tend to not really know where to go inside in order to get what they need to change their life. Because when we're young, Bible says be as little children. When we are children, our life is moldable, it's bendable, we can shape it, we can kind of do what we want to do. But we usually land in the hand of adults that have no idea what they're doing, and they shape our lives the way they want to shape them, and we get pulled away from ourselves. So our adult life, when we awaken, It's all about getting back to that. And I had so much fun today doing that with people. Um, so I want to just correlate the story of Jacob and Esau and Isaac with this. Um, and if you want to go to my website, I have the notes to what I'm talking about because I always write out my notes on my blog. And then after I write my notes on my blog, I'll talk about it. So when we talk about those three levels of consciousness that I talked about, we talked about the theta and the delta and the alpha. And the delta is just your being from 0 to 2. You're just being. That's your super subconscious. That's the source. That's just as close as to God as you can be because you're not thinking, you're just being. And then you go to the theta, as I talked about, that's going to be your Jacob. That's going to be your feeling, your mother, your subconscious, your inner self, right? And then we go into Esau, which is going to be that alpha, that analytical, that physical, that conscious state. Okay. So when we talk about the story of Jacob, which is thought, and Esau, which is the physical part, and then we're going to talk about how we embody these states. Esau, of course, was the eldest son. And as I said earlier, for those of you, I'm doing 2 cameras, so I'm here. I see you all. Hey, Sandra. Hey, Marilyn. How you doing? Um, so Esau was the eldest son of Isaac, who is going to represent the source here. Okay. And Isaac was blind, which represents source. Source cannot see. Source does not judge. Source is just source, right? And the birthright during those customs, days, laws, culture, was that the oldest always gets that birthright, right? Well, Esau represents that consciousness of force, that physical nature, that what we're caught up in whenever we are actually trying to change our life. We actually get so caught up in the force that we don't see anything else, right? Because we're kind of pulled away from our subconscious and we're pulled into this 3D reality to make these changes, and we keep hitting this brick wall and we just don't know why. So Esau represents commandments and cause and effects and judgment by physical appearance. And this level of consciousness needs religion. It needs religion. It relies on religion. It needs commandments. It needs civil laws. It needs that. Which is why I always say that when people grow, when people expand, and they talk about religion and civil laws as imperfect as they are, without them, some people would just go completely crazy because they're not at a level of consciousness where they can think without consequences, right? They need those consequences that are attached to that. Now, no, Esau in the Bible was of a hairy appearance, and Jacob was of a smooth appearance, right? Well, that's how Isaac was able to tell them apart. So you have the mother who favored Jacob, you know, and that favor represents our desire. What it is that we want for ourselves. What is it that you want for yourself? There's a part of you that favors you. And that part of you is just your subconscious, your inner mother, right? Source is your father, That's your source. And your inner mother has these desires for you, this favor that she wants to bestow upon you so that you can get the things that you want, right? And she wanted Jacob to have that birthright. So she came up with a plan, as you all know the story. I'm not telling the story, I'm just making connections, metaphysical connections. She came up with a plan to dress Jacob up so that he would feel like Esau to the father, right? And so we talked about our desire, our desire coming from that subconscious place. And that is that first step of us literally dressing ourselves in the desires of our heart so that we can feel like the one that's going to get the source's blessing. And so Jacob represents that thought, that going from that delta to that theta state, that thought consciousness, that thinking, trying to kind of outwit things, thinking things. That is a step into coming alive in who you are. You're waking up. But remember, when you're waking up into a conditioning, right? So you have that inner self that's there, but you also still have the influence of your environment that's there. So you're living in this duality. You are aware of the duality. And so Jacob represents that thought or that feeling. So when Jacob went to Isaac, he asked him, um, you know, Isaac asked him, are you Esau? And Jacob said, yes, I am. That's being. He became that the moment he said, I am. He became that, right? And doing this is like outwitting the devil, like Napoleon Hill talks about in his book, Outwitting the Devil. You can look that up on YouTube and just listen to that. And he teaches that. And Source hears and feels. Source doesn't see. For those of you who are not into tarot or astrology or anything like that, there is a card called Justice. And you all who are aware of Justice knows that Justice holds the scales and has a blindfold. That represents that Justice is blind, law is blind, Lord is blind, Source is blind. They can't, Source can't see, but Source hears, Source feels, Source goes according to vibration, right? So knowing that, Source doesn't judge. So all of the political, socio-economical, religious teachings that we have that take us away from ourselves, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why when you are coming into your God experience that you have to pull away from your culture, that you have to leave and cleave. You kind of have to leave and distance yourself from your environment. Some of you have to distance yourself from your family members and friends and church members and people so that you can commune with God, so that you can expand, so that you can grow. Well, during this period, you are getting in touch with that I am. And it is like the most powerful place to be. And when you do that, you are pulling away from the 3D reality, from the things that you see with your eyes and smell with your nose and taste with your mouth. You're going into another place where you can literally hear the voice of God, that higher voice in you. And so when we talk about um, whatever you add to I am, you become that. This is the source of all effective magic. And we call magic magic, but it's not really magic. It's just that ability to get in touch with that higher power. We give that over to witches and warlocks and all of the evil, dark forces of the world, we like to call them. They are very aware of that power. But as just people or Christians or people who are attached to culture and politics are taught not to use that power, right? Stay away from that, because what it does is it actually makes you very independent. It makes you very powerful within yourself. It takes away that yearning for anything outside of you, and that desire for someone to feed you. You don't feel that anymore, right? And that cuts into a lot of profit. It cuts into a lot of people's egos. It cuts through a lot of the BS that you normally have to go through just to get a little kernel of spirituality. And you go outside of yourself, get that little kernel of spirituality, and you eat it, and it's not even a part of you. So you still have not even delved into that part of you that actually has that. So when we talk about the power of I am, we talk about abracadabra, which just simply means created by my words. Thus, I am your very son, Esau. Just those words alone just create the vibration. And in traditional religion, it is taught that Jacob stole the birthright. But that is not necessarily what you're trying to get out of the story. You're basically trying to get something else. And we shift that paradigm. You shift the perspective of the power of this behind the story. So if that father represents source, then Isaac heard and felt Jacob through love and affection, because he brought him in close to him so he could feel him, so he could kiss him. And remember, the mother, the subconscious, dressed Jacob up to feel like the son entitled to the birthright. So she made him feel hairy. She put on his clothes. And the father said, "Come closer." Source was calling Jacob closer, just like Source is calling you closer. Come, let me hug you. Let me touch you. Let me see if you feel like you deserve what it is that you want, that you say that you want. If you feel like a worm, but you say you want riches, I can't feel that. If you feel oppressed and poor and black and ugly and stupid and dumb and like you can't do anything, but you say you want all of these things that you say with your mouth that you deserve, Source, I'm not going to be able to feel that. So you're not going to get it. And then you're going to confirm it and affirm it. And you're going to say, I knew it. I knew it. And Source is just going to be there, right? It's not going to move, right? It's for you to align with it, not for it to align with you. So if you want something, your conscious and subconscious must be in agreement, meaning that the concept of yourself must be reconciled between your inner mother and your inner father. That subconscious must be in alignment with that conscious. And you must understand that those two must be in agreement so that you can become of one mind, right? So how many times when you're children, if you've had the opportunity to go between the two, the mother and the father, and manipulate through thought to be passive aggressive, to try and manipulate your way through. Many times we try to get around aligning ourselves with Source and doing the work that we need to do. We try to get around it, and we use our manipulative thoughts to get what we want. And it works temporarily, but it doesn't stick because you don't really believe it. You're taking a shortcut. So you must reconcile your inner mother and father once this happens, regardless of who is supposed to have the blessing. The one who aligns and reconciles that subconscious with the source is the one that's going to get it. Which is why a lot of the times we always look at people and say, why did they get that and I didn't? I worked hard. I did the work. I showed up. But you didn't feel. You didn't do like Jacob. You didn't feel to the source, to the father, to Isaac. You didn't feel like Esau. You didn't feel like the one who deserved the birthright. You were trying, but you weren't being. Being is being in alignment. Trying is trying to manipulate what you see with your eyes, right? And that always throws you off your square. So source and subconscious, they don't know the difference between any particular reality. This is where make-believe comes in and going back to being a child. When you are a child and you are in touch with that high source, that imagination is powerful because you are at a place where you don't see anything around you. And if you can just go back to that place, I know some of you have been there. I've been there. And if adults are somewhere in the house and you get deep into your make-believe, you don't even realize what's going on around you. You don't see your circumstances around you. You literally think that you are in that state, and your subconscious and conscious is there. So it will begin to unfold for you. It will begin to unfold. You will begin to literally see things happen as you set that thing in motion once you're in alignment with it. So when you actually do that, you are fully realized. Fully realized. And it takes practice because, again, we are so pulled away from that portion of us, so blocked. And we can go in and we can have sessions and we can have these good, warm and fuzzy feelings just like you do when you go and you hear a good sermon. You can have that for a moment. But if you don't practice staying there or being able to get there as much as possible. And everybody has their different ways of getting there. Mine is through the breath. When I'm stressed out, I tend to breathe very shallow. I hold my breath. But the moment I become aware of my breath and I focus on my breath, everything around me begins to fade. And the reason why being able to do that in this time is so important is because you have time and because you have such a low vibration environment around you. We have fake news. We have some real news. We have people dying. We have people who are sick. We're paranoid. You have all of these things that are going on. This is the ideal time to practice your make-believe. This is your ideal time to practice Jacob feeling like Esau so that you can get the birthright. This is the perfect time to align that subconscious mother with that source father so that you can literally be who and what it is that you desire. And it's fun. It's fun to do it. I don't care what kind of circumstance you're in. It's fun to do it. Now, one of the things that I like to do, only because I like to go back and look at some of the things that I have done or that has unfolded as a result of practice, is I like to write it down. I like to take my stuff and write it down, put a date, because what happens is the moment you visualize something, it will start to happen. Now, one of the things that I have practiced that I noticed that works. So while you're stuck in the house, come up with something that you really want. And don't imagine the beginning of it. Don't imagine the middle of it. Imagine the end of it. So if it's you winning $1 million, then you can imagine you talking on the phone where someone is literally saying, "Oh, wow, Sandra, I can't believe that you won that money. Congratulations. What are you going to do with it?" Or something like that. If it's a relationship that you desire to see actually happening, don't imagine that person coming up to you saying, "I want to date you." Imagine a year after you all are married and you are actually celebrating your first anniversary. If you even want to imagine the deliverance of your children, don't imagine your children in a way that they are. If they are sick, if they are addicted, if they are depressed, you must imagine them being happy for a period of time. Don't imagine them one day coming to you saying, "I feel good today." Literally imagine them coming to you saying, "It's been a year since I felt depressed, mom or dad. And this is the best that I have ever felt in my entire life." And imagine you all having that conversation and feel that feeling for them. This is how you heal for yourself. This is how you heal for people. You imagine them not the way that they are. You dress them up like Jacob's mother dressed him up, like your subconscious desires to dress you up. And you go to the source and align with the source, and you feel like the one who is that which you desire. And it works. This is not something that you just read. This is something that you do. And as you do it, and the more you do it, and you can start out with something small. It doesn't have to be with money. It doesn't have to be, even if you need healing, you can start out with some healing to imagine yourself whole and pain free. Imagine yourself the desired weight that you want to be. Imagine yourself with that partner that you desire that is perfect for you. You can do that. That's big, but do that, but also do little things along the way, and imagine those little things along the way. As you imagine those little things along the way, write them down, and as they happen, it creates a spark. And then you go back to that bigger desire, and you feel even better when you go back and you imagine that, and you put more power into that, because we always say, things grow where your power goes, where your thoughts go. That's where those are the things that grow. So as you see these little things unfold, I started out a long time ago um, manifesting a smoothie. And I tell this story. A couple of years ago, I was like, I want a smoothie. And I went to sleep with that on my mind. I was like, I want a smoothie. Somebody's going to buy me a smoothie for lunch tomorrow. And I remember when I got up and I went to work, and I didn't, breakfast came. And when breakfast came, nobody said anything, but I was looking, right? I was like, is somebody going to ask me for, offer me a smoothie for breakfast? So breakfast came and went. I was like, well, I still have lunch. Okay, this is where faith comes in. And I said, okay, nobody asked me for lunch. And so I was like, wow, right? I'm still thinking about it. So the thinking about it, hoping about it, wishing about it is actually choking it. You're choking it. You're not allowing it because you don't really believe it, right? You don't really, you hadn't really accepted that it's going to happen. So you're kind of looking like, is this really going to work? So around 1:30, I forgot all about it. My day ended and I got off work. I forgot all about it. I wasn't even thinking about it. So the universe was working. And my best friend called and said, are you going walking today? It was about 5:30. I said, yeah, I'm going walking today. She said, okay, I'm going to meet you at the park. I said, okay. So we met at the park. I still wasn't thinking about it. We ran around the park because she's military, so she was pushing me. So we ran around the park. After we finished, of course, my mind was on catching my breath. I still wasn't thinking about it. And she said, I've been wanting a smoothie all day today. And then light bulb went off and I got excited, but I said, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to see if how this is going to play out. I said, really? She said, yes. I said, okay. I said, where do you want to go? Because I had where I wanted to go and everything. She said, I want to go to Smoothie King. Okay, write that down. That was in the manifestation that I was thinking about. So I jotted that down. We went, we ordered. The lady gave us 3 smoothies. I said, well, it's just 2 of us. She said, oh, I must have made a mistake. She said, well, you can keep that one. So she had a smoothie, I had a smoothie, and I took one home. So actually, that happened. And when that happened, I started just doing it more and more and more because that's momentum. That's momentum. So when you think about life, I don't have my pendulum in here, but you can think about life like, let's imagine that this is the pendulum of life, right? And it's going in a direction that you don't want it to go in. It's going like this. But let's say you want it to go like this, right? Well, before it actually switches to the direction you want it to go in, it has to come to a halt. So if it's going like this and you're like, I don't like the way my life is going, I'm going to change it, right? Well, in the middle of changing it, there's going to be a period where it's going to stand still and it's not going to move. And you're going to be thinking, oh, God hasn't heard me. The universe hasn't heard me. All of these things I've heard don't work. I can't believe that I've been doing this for this many years and I'm still here. I'm still there. I'm still doing the same thing. It's not happening. Well, usually this is when people give up, when it's still, right? But after it stills itself, if you are believing, if you are knowing, if you are doing, if you are just living your life and you're not dwelling on what's not happening, is it happening yet? No, it hadn't happened yet. What happens is that pendulum will begin to go in the direction that you wanted to go in, but that standstill portion is where we get discouraged. And that is when other things come in. That's when the shadow part of ourselves comes in. Remember when Jacob was wrestling with himself? He said he was wrestling with an angel, but that was really Jacob's shadow self that had not been integrated. That was doubt, that was fear. That was Jacob wrestling with that part of himself that did not believe, that did not know, that higher knowing. Once that wrestling was done, then that pendulum began to switch in the other way. And Jacob's name was changed. And things started opening up and changing. And so that is a fact. This is not a fairy tale. It actually happens like that. Simply because your heart is beating, that's a vibration. You have neurons in your brain, that's vibrating. You have neurons in your gut, that's vibrating. You are a complete vibrational being. You can change the course of your life. You can do whatever you want. That is all the Bible is teaching. The Bible is not teaching which denomination is going to heaven or hell. The Bible is not teaching you what you should not do, or else you're going to turn into this pillar of salt. The Bible is not teaching you which day to do this and which day to do that, and you can take that information and you can use it literally if you want to, but you're never going to realize the fullness of that code in that book until you understand the metaphysical meanings behind it. Because if you're thinking that that story is of Isaac and Jacob and Esau and the mother, you're missing the whole point. It's like fairy tales. You can't think that the story of the three little pigs is about the three little pigs. If you can't look beyond that and realize what that story is really about, you're missing the point. So the whole goal is to learn through your experiences. Your experiences are not necessarily here to pick on you or throw you off. They're here to make you think. They're here to make you search. They're here to make you look. They're here to make you feel a certain way, to feel uncomfortable. They're here to, you're supposed to be uncomfortable. The uncomfortableness is the opportunity for you to discover what makes you comfortable. And if you're looking for somebody else to make you comfortable, you'll never discover it because people come and go. And really, people don't really care about you. People reflect how you feel about yourself. So once you get that, you'll understand. It's almost like if you go thrift shopping, and some people are so good at thrift shopping. Some people can go into a thrift store and they can say, I don't see anything. I don't see anything in here. I'm kind of like that. Where I go into a thrift store and I say, I don't see anything in here. But my sister, she can go into a thrift store and she can see something and say, oh my God, that is the most beautiful, beautiful pen. She sees the value in that pen. There's a vibrational match there between her and that pen. So your goal is to not go around and find people to make you feel good, but to be that vibrational match so that when people run into you, they'll say, oh my God, Vonda, you click with me. And you're like, wow, we are a reflection of each other. Like, oh my goodness, Keisha, you click. I don't know what it is. You click with me. And that is what you do. You keep evolving to a higher level, and people that notice you will recognize your value based on the value you have within yourself. And you begin to create your soul group. You begin to create the people that are around you. If a whole bunch of people are around you that are not for you, if you're still dealing with jealousy and betrayal and attracting jacked up partners and spouses not treating you right and people not appreciating you, raise your value. Raise your value, because we can be desired. There's a difference, and I say it all the time. There's a difference in being desired and wanted and being valued. When we desire something, we want to possess it. When we value something, we want to take care of it. And the people that are around you need to be taking care of you based on the value that they see in themselves that resonates with the value that you have built in you. So, taking that lesson of Jacob dressing himself in the birthright to be that very thing that he desired is the perfect lesson. Again, go to www.mindscapeartist.com and get the notes to what I'm talking about. It's not a secret. And then research it for yourself and apply it to yourself. And while we're sitting here in this quarantine, you will go higher as you practice this. Oh, Vonda, you're very valued. Yes. Yes. Mm. Um, you will be able to, when this is over, you will be able to see a difference in when you step out. Just try it while you're inside. And let this be a metamorphosis time for you to raise your value, to get your birthright, to get in alignment with the inner mother, father, with the source and the subconscious, to get to that point where you're not trying, you're not forcing, you're not pushing, but you're in alignment with the power that's already there. This is the perfect time. So I hope you all enjoyed this. And if you have any other questions or anything else you want to talk about, let me know. That's usually why I don't do lives. I like Zoom because I like to talk. I like to interact. But I appreciate you guys listening. And in the meantime, reconstruct the world by reconstructing your mind. I know you can do it. Bye. Okay. Sorry if I got a little lost.